Hello. Right. Tuesday evening, isn't it? Not Thursday. I do Tuesdays and Thursdays, but it's only Tuesday today. The weeks go so fast. Anyway, hi, welcome to the AquaStax Hour with me, Long Steve, where I'm going to write some more AquaStax code. Or, actually, I'm going to do a bit more than that first. I'm going to apologize for doing something that I said I wasn't going to do when I first started my streams. I said that I wasn't going to write any of this code off stream. I was going to do everything on stream. And what happened was last week I did a bunch of work and it was okay. Got to the point of blocks sliding or almost sliding left or right. But I wasn't quite happy with the way the code had been written and the way I was doing it. So the day after, I spent a bit of time looking around at better ways to do it and whether or not I could make the code better or just be happier in my own self for doing it. And what happened was I spent about 2 hours and I wrote a bunch of code and it was really good. It's like, hang on a minute, this is actually working really well and I'm quite pleased with it. And I didn't want to just get rid of it and then redo it again on stream. But I didn't want to do too much off stream. So I left it at that point. And then a week has passed, or 5 days since last Thursday. And I've ended up here with a bunch of code that I didn't write on stream. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, probably going to use SmartGit to diff the files that I changed. And doing that, I'm going to go through what I changed and explain what it was I did. And in doing so, hopefully remind myself of what I did. And also if I can explain it, then I'll understand it. And then I can get a bit better visualization code written today that allows me to see the sliding working properly. I'll just give you a quick demo. Bring up Chrome, here we go. And this is very similar to where it was at the end of last week, but I've tidied up a bunch of code, I've tweaked some functions so they work a bit better, and I've structured the collision detection code in a nicer way so that it's easier to slot in the sliding and also the block breaking routines, but they're not written yet. Anyway, let's see. So if I drop this block down here, you'll see it'll slide. There it goes. Slides nicely. And various other sliding occurrences happen. Let's see. The hat just flashed. Welcome, Ben Jones. Good to see you. First person on today. I was just explaining that I've done something that I said I wouldn't do when I first started doing these streams a few months ago. And that was I've written some code off stream. I said I was going to write all of the code for AquaStax, my remake, on the stream. And what I've gone and done is, at the end of last stream, the day after, I spent a bit of time looking at what I'd done. And I didn't get carried away, but I spent a couple of hours doing some stuff and tidying things up and making myself much happier with how it all worked. So I'm going to explain that now, hopefully. So what I'm going to do is bring up SmartGit. And it should show me what I changed. So when I changed it, I committed it to GitHub only locally. I haven't pushed it. Sorry, I committed it to my local Git repository, but haven't pushed it to GitHub. Right. And it was, so 2 files I changed. Now I could actually diff these files in SlickEdit. It has version control integration, and I can do, let's see, I can do history for grid.js we're looking at here. Rework the high-level logic for block sliding. So that's what I did. I'm going to have to just cough because I've got a bit of a frog in my throat. I'll just mute myself. That's better. My mic's very close to my mouth, so a cough would be pretty horrendous for most people listening. Well, hi, live coding TV support. Good to see it. Right. Where was I? Yes, I was going to have a look at the diff. So if I go back one previous change and hit diff, I can see using SlickEdit's diffzilla tool here that there are various things I changed. Is the game completed yet? No, not yet. Not by a long way. I wrote it originally 10 years ago, so it is a complete game, but I'm remaking it now. So I'm writing it again using JavaScript and the Cocos2d-JS framework. Originally, it was written in Java for mobile phones, so old school mobile phones like Nokia and Sony Ericsson devices. Where was I? If I just show you how it's going at the moment. It's basically the block dropping bit. I haven't got any sprites or any graphics in there of the little sprites moving around. But I've got quite a bit of block action going on. I've just got some sliding occurring. So as you can see, when you've got the sloping bits, the blocks will slide off each other. So if I drop that down there, that one didn't do it. That one will. So that was a major part of the gameplay. I'm not sure what that's going to do. Oh, it does slide. Anyway, so I got the sliding working last week, but I wasn't happy with it, so I kind of rewrote it. So what I'm doing now is I'm just trying to remind myself of what I actually rewrote. Hopefully, if I can explain a little bit of that on the stream now, and then we'll go in to do a bit more visualization to figure out what the code is doing. You'll see some little lines appearing where collisions occur. And that's part of the sliding code, and I want to extend that so that it shows you where the slide's going to happen. Hopefully that'll slide off to the right. Yes, it does. So using SlickEdit's diffzilla tool here, I can see what I changed. So for example, I had a getBlock aligned grid position function, and it was implemented initially by calling two other functions, getGridIndex for point, and then get grid position for index, returning that position. But what happens, I found a bug in that, and it didn't work in a couple of situations. So what I actually wanted to do was just boil it down to the basic maths, which is divide the x and y position by the block size using integer maths, and then multiply it by the block size. And what that does is it makes sure that you get a exact block, a grid aligned block position. And the reason for that was, now the sliding can occur. You can move the block left and right when it's not on a exactly aligned vertical grid cell like it is now. So when I press left and right, they move from one cell to another. But when it slides, it shifts across slowly. So if I click the button to move it halfway through a slide, it needs to not move one grid cell's worth of pixels to the left, which is 50. It needs to move an exact number to make it lock to the grid alignment, the vertical grid alignment. Yes, that's right. Yeah. Anyway, so there was a bug there, so I changed that. I might be able to use this and go down a little bit more. Let's go next diff, see what else I did. So a whole bunch of red. Oh, that's just me selecting it. So it looks like this is the old one. This isn't the new. This is the newer version of the code. The trouble is I can't jump back to my SlickEdit window and do anything with it. It's locked in place because diffzilla is part of SlickEdit and it sits in front of it. So anyway, what I was doing here was I was making sure that I was returning the axis collision flags along with the particular collide block with grid boundary value, whether it's 1, 2, or 3, left, right, or bottom. Wasn't doing that before, and the reason for that is I think it's used somewhere a bit higher up. See, there are 3 diffs there. Why is it selecting every time I do that? Next diff. Okay, that was just a change to explicitly not equal to rather than the more loose not equal to 0. So I think I implemented a slide block function inside the grid class. Yes, I think before I was probably doing lots of the logic inside game, and I thought, no, it's better to be inside grid. And this boils down to a completely new function, and I'll go ahead and explain that now. But we'll jump out of here because I can see it. It's larger in my main editor view. And I also added a break block function, which isn't actually implemented yet. I think that's the last change. Just a couple of getting rid of or inserting the old self equals this, and then a little bit of tidying up of the insert block into grid code. Why did I do that? Looks like get block. Okay, so what was happening was the blocks as they land, and when it finally comes to rest, this insert block into grid code is called. But what it needs to happen is make sure that it's properly aligned with the grid, because after a slide it could be, 1 or 2 very small floating point fractions out of the actual pixel alignment. So it calls this get block aligned grid position, which is the that was probably when I discovered the bug in that bit of code, so I had to fix that as well. Next if that's the last one, and then what it is. So I just go back up to here, remind myself. Interesting, it's a different font as well. I wonder what the font is it uses for this diff. Definitely doesn't look like the one I'm normally using in my editor. Anyway, I shan't care about that for now. Slide block, so that's where I'm going to go and have a look in here. Close that off. Inside grid, slide block. So I looked at what I was doing before, which I think was mostly in game. So let's have a look in game. Window, tools, version control, history for game, diff. Right. So a little bit of tweaking the fast dropping. Ah, that was it. Yes. So the fast drop always used to slow down whenever you got close to a block. What I did was I tweaked it so that it actually doesn't slow down if you get close to a block and the collision that the code advances the block down, runs the collision routine to predict if a collision will occur the next frame, and if it was, or if it was not occurring, it was then allowing the fast drop. What that meant was the blocks would slow down when they reached the bottom or another block. So if I hold the button down, it's difficult to see, but you can sometimes just see it on the stream. As the block gets to the very bottom, it just slows down before it lands. What I wanted to do was make sure that the dropping of blocks when they slid happened nice and quickly, so that the particular bit of code now only slows the block down if a axis. So sorry, is it axis? What did I say? Yes, if axis collision is 0. Axis collision is the horizontal or vertical, which means it's a flat and won't slide. So if it's an axis collision, then so if it's fast drop and axis collision is 0, what that actually means is the axis collision isn't set. So if it's not an axis collision, it allows the block to drop quickly. So if it's no collision or a slope collision, it will continue to drop quickly. And I can demonstrate that now by sort of just dropping that one down quickly, and it should rapidly move past that blue block. There we go. It's almost too quick to see, actually. There we go. And it slowed down right at the end there, because the last bit is actually going to be the axis collision that's caused it to stop. Let's see if I can do that again. It's going to take a bit of time to get a height of blocks up. I can do that probably. Dink. See, it drops down pretty quick, and then there's a slight pause at the end. Anyway, that's probably just a slight gameplay tweak. I'll probably end up changing that in the future. So then what do we do? Removed the to-do implement this properly. So what was before? So I had a bunch of interesting tests. So test to see if the falling block can move straight down. If collision comes back non-zero, then there is a collision. Highlight the collision that just occurred. That's where the little lines occur on the screen. And then then I wrote a test for sliding function separately, and that was inside the game file. And if that returned true, or whatever values for for truthy values, I think it was just basically very quickly slapping in a slide function to go left or right, and it would move the block left or right, and that was all it was doing. I didn't get any further than that at the end of last week. I think I was floundering around a little bit trying to get the logic correct here, and that was why I wasn't happy with it in the end, because I ended up doing things like storing the value of his sliding inside the block itself, testing, recording it there, testing again. If it was sliding but it's now not sliding, then make sure the block aligns the block, and then it inserts it into the grid and some other things, and it was all getting a bit out of hand and wasn't working. And this test for sliding function was naive. It only had a couple of cases which were supported, and I was planning to expand it to a bunch of other cases, but I wasn't happy with the high-level structure, so I got rid of quite a lot of it. Oh, there goes the hat. Who's that? Mr. Knight. Ah, good to see you. I can just out of the corner of my eye see the hat appearing on the screen, or the hat flashing when somebody arrives. So what I ended up doing was a whole bunch of extra logic, and I changed the collision code. Anyway, I'm not going to look at that here. I'm going to go back into SlickEdit and have a look at that. So that's inside game.js, mainly at the bottom of the update code, I think. So here we are. So here's the sort of moving the block left, right, and fast dropping it, or fast dropping it so if it can move sideways. And then what it does is, if the block is sliding, so I've decided to use sliding, or is sliding, as like a state for the block. So it actually jumps into, oh, it says not a Git repository. I don't know what that means. That's obviously just some sort of error from the Git code. So the sliding is different from the other states of the block, moving down, fast dropping, and so on. And the states aren't explicit. There isn't actually a state machine. It's just they're implied by various settings and booleans and things. So what did I do? So if the player, so this is the bit where I was careful to make sure that if the block is sliding and the player has pressed the left or right button, so this dx does not equal 0, dx is a variable which gets set to a positive or negative number when the left or right button is pressed, and is designed to move the block x position left or right a number of pixels. So if dx is not equal 0, shift the block to the next grid-aligned column out of the slide. Ah, that's right. So as part of the sliding routine that determines whether or not a block will slide, it actually works out where it's going to slide to. And I'll show you that in a minute. And it moves it says I can move to x and y position object. So it actually works out the difference from where it's going to, from where it is, and then it shifts it to the left or right. And the is sliding code works out whether or not a block can slide on a single grid cell by cell basis. So what happens is, a little block, oh perfect, a little square block will come down here. When it gets to this point here, the routine that works out whether or not it can slide determines that it can actually slide to the left or to the right by one cell, and I'll show you how it does that in a minute. And then it sets the variables. So that's that bit there. So that determines. Otherwise, handle the slope movement. So this is where it actually is shifting in some can move left, can move right. dy. That's actually, so dy is the amount a block moves down in a single game update. It's actually then moving x by that same amount. If it's moving left, dy is actually negative because dy reduces the y value every update, so it's going to be minus 2 pixels or something like that. So we actually we just set dx to minus 2 pixels if it's going left, and then actually negate that, so it's plus 2 pixels if it's going right. That means that the left and right sliding is the same vertical and horizontal speed, or it's the same vertical speed, and it's the horizontal speed that's the same as the vertical. It actually doesn't look quite right to my eyes. When I look at this, I think it looks like it's subtly changing speed, but I'm not too worried about it at the moment. I think I'm probably wrong, and I'm just can't see the actual things going on. And when it slides, when you're fast dropping, I don't know, my eyes seem to think it moves and changes speed slightly, but I'm not going to worry about that. That's a petty thing. Anyway, what else can we do? So if block is sliding, so this is the bit where after it's moved, if it's sliding, it should be positive. Why am I testing that twice? If block is sliding, move it. If block is sliding, there's no side effects. Actually no. Shift the block to the next grid aligned column. If you actually press the left or right buttons to shift, that actually sets that to null, which takes it out of the slide mode. So if it's sliding halfway and I press left, that bit of code doesn't actually get triggered. And then I might comment on that. Take the block out of slide. I'm going to call it sliding mode. Okay. Oops. position, and if the block is still sliding, might have been a left-right move to stop it. And then, so what was happening was if it was going left, if the X position is now less than or equal to where it can move to, it actually does a force set position of that to the exact position, and then it takes it out of sliding mode. So if the block is still sliding, was going left, and it was going left. It was going left, fix to the exact position, and then stop the sliding mode. Right. And subsequently, if it was going right. So what it does is it effectively only slides, or is only in sliding mode, one block at a time, or one grid cell at a time. I've got to get my terminology correct. There we go. So it will slide and then stop sliding at that point, whereupon the normal moving down logic takes control again. And if that slide would then continue, there's a one game update when it comes back down again into the routine that determines whether or not a slide will occur, and it will call that again. So it will just continue sliding. It should be completely seamless. Yeah, I mean, you saw the collision change there. I'm going to just debug that to convince myself it's only doing that twice. That's rather handy. I'm getting a nice slope occurring. So jump into the debugger, hitting Apple Alt-I, and let's just go with sliding. So at one point, there it is. So it's coming in, is sliding. Now it's going to hit there. Can I kind of need an else statement to break on, otherwise I'm going to have to manually just step through. I can hit F10, can't I? Is it F10? If I hover over that, I was wondering, F10 is single step. I wonder what the continue is. Somewhere here there's a help panel, isn't there? Shortcuts, there we go. Console, timeline, debugger. F8, continue, that's what I want. Right, so if I hold it down, it's just going to loop continuously. It's jittering nicely. So with any luck, any second now, it will come in here, but sliding will be false. So currently sliding is an object, and it contains the information that's been worked out by the slide function. Oh, actually, it's at this point in the code, it's going to come in here anyway, because this collide block is the thing that now does the setting of his sliding. I wonder, actually, if I break on this, where is it that does that setting of this? It's this slide block, isn't it? If I break down here, so 427. It's in grid 427. So it's there or there. They're the points where it decides that it can slide left or right. F8. Okay, so let's do that again. That one's not going to work because if I do that, plop that one there, then we've got a nice long slide there it is, right. So that's slid into the can move left branch. And how this works is it tests to see if the block can move down and right by half a grid cell in the down and right direction, and again in a full grid cell in the down and right direction. So it determines whether or not there's a collision if that block moves down. Well, let's try the down and to the left first. So down and to the left, if the block moves to like half, so that right hand corner of the block would move down to there. If that would be a collision in that scenario, then it obviously can't move down to the left. In fact, it tests it twice. If it doesn't collide, and it doesn't collide in the full one cell down and to the left position, then it flags it as yes, it can slide to the left. And if it moves it to the right by half a cell and then to the right by a full cell, hi Sabo, good to see you. In this instance, it can't slide to the right, because if it moves it to the right half a cell, then it would be overlapping this one in a collision scenario. So you end up with no collision. And my code before was, let's not use Slicker, let's use SmartGit and just do a, let's see, there it was. Can I do a diff compare with local? No, I want to compare with previous, don't I? Actually, if I just double click it, what happens? Yeah, that shows me the diff. So the previous code, this test for sliding, was trying to work out the slopes, and it was overlaying triangles over each other, trying to decide if they were the correct overlapping types to slide left or right. And it wasn't always working right, and it was all a bit ropey. And what I thought was, there's a much simpler way of doing it, and that is by just decide, the code knows that a slope collision has occurred. It's at that point that slide block is called. So let's jump in here and show that. Here we go. Yes. So actually, I've used the invoice calculation. So if a slope collision does not equal 0, so that means that slope collision bit is set in the collision response. We go in and we work out the sliding. And of course, there may be no sliding, because there are scenarios where a slope collision occurs, but the block can't actually slide. For example, if one landed there, it couldn't slide to the left or the right because it's stuck in the bottom of that well. But this code handles that as well now. Anyway, so the tests of can it move half a cell to the down and right or down and left are ultimately what I ended up writing. And I was quite pleased with myself for figuring out that that's kind of a simple way of doing this collision testing. And I felt sure that there must be some stuff I'm missing, but it ultimately seems to work okay. I just noticed a chat occur on my live coding window there. I'm waiting for it to appear on the my chat window. Is it possible to compile this game on any device? Hopefully. So Cocos2d-JS supports mobile devices, Mac, Linux, Windows. I'm writing it entirely in JavaScript, and the way that they handle JavaScript on non-web devices, so for example, this is actually running in Chrome in a web browser, but I should be able to create a build script which will generate an iOS native build, or an Android native build, or a PC version. The actual Cocos2d-JS libraries embed the SpiderMonkey JavaScript virtual machine and run your JavaScript code, but then when the JavaScript code runs, it boils down to native OpenGL rendering and other things. It's WebGL rendering on a browser, but OpenGL on devices and things. So yes, it should be possible to compile the game and have it running on other devices. That's my plan ultimately. I won't get that far yet. And when you're doing the development, it's a lot better to do the development in a web browser, exactly for the Chrome debugger, or the Firefox debugger if you want to use that. I found that when you're writing JavaScript code using Cocos2d-JS on an iPhone, for example, you use the iPhone simulator, there's no way you can step through JavaScript inside Xcode, and the debugging scenarios are really cumbersome to use. whereas at least in a browser you've got a step-through debugger. It's really handy. Yeah, so ultimately I'd like the game to be running on lots of different devices. Right. Oh, hat's gone again. Somebody else is going to join. Oh no, maybe it's somebody coming and going. At some point I'm going to wear the hat as well. I haven't yet sewn in the LEDs properly into the rim, and they're just taped in at the moment, so I can't actually wear it because they keep falling off. At some point it will be all on my head. Anyway, where were we? I was about to go through so we went into this slide block function, and it's calculated it can slide. It says it can move right. That's interesting. Or is it? No, we're not actually there. That was just the breakpoint I was looking at. It was this one where we are. It's moved left. So we step through there. It then calculates, it puts the position of the block that it's going to move to, which is the one down and to the left, in this object, and returns that to the previous code, which is the is sliding. It's weird. I should probably change that. I've used is sliding, which is we normally expect to be a Boolean, but it's actually an object that's returned by the slide block. It's not even that actually. The slide block has a side effect where it sets the block.isSliding property. I might think about changing that around so it's a bit less side effecty. Things going on that you don't expect. Anyway, I'll do that in a minute. So if I hit F8, it will jump in. It won't come into slide block again until that point there, because it effectively is in the sliding mode for one grid cell to the down and left. At the point where it got to here, it was stopped from sliding mode. Next game update, slide block, the collision would still have come in as, yes, it can slide because it's an axis, sorry, a slope collision, not an axis collision, it's a slope collision. And it works out again. And if I hit F8, it'll do it again, and it comes in. It didn't come in that time because it would have actually come into slide block, but neither the left or right collision statements would have triggered because it couldn't actually slide left from that position. It's stuck there. Now you'd think that I might want it to drop down and sort of like nestle in the bottom, but the code doesn't work like that. It's all based off of the grid. It's not sort of proper physics. And actually, I think in that scenario, the block should have broken, because the next bit to do after all this sliding is block breaking. And when you have something like that, where a point lands on a bit and it can't move, the point is supposed to break the bit underneath it. So that should have probably broken something there, and so you don't end up with scenarios where blocks are sitting like that where they shouldn't slide. So if I did that, for example, that whole pink thing, because the colours merge together as well, should break. I think it breaks both the block that you land on and the block that's falling as well. Anyway, so that's what's going on there. So this is this collision. So we work out collision up here, don't we? Test to see if the falling block can move straight down. Collision response is the thing that has various values. It's just an integer, but it has the what sort of collision occurred as a bit flags within that integer. Collide block. I wrote a stick block function. What did I do that for? Insert block into grid, new random block. So that's basically the point where the block can't move any further. It sticks it in the grid and makes a new random one to fall down. So where is it called stick block? Probably more than once, because yes, okay. So this is now the collision logic. Let's just lose that. Ooh. Hitting escape, almost knocking my tea over. Have a drink a bit of that. My hat has taken the position that my teacup normally has. So it's in the wrong place. Could be dangerous. So if we're not sliding, then the collision highlights it. So that's the bit of code that draws those lines, like that one there. That one there. If it can move left or right. Ah, okay, so it's not a side effect. I was wrong. Slide block returns an object with the details of what sliding can occur. And if it's not null, or actually if it's can slide left or right, then block.isSliding is set to that object. I might change that to not be is sliding though. If self block is sliding, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll leave it like it is. Let's carry on reminding myself what was going on. Gosh, it's been 35 minutes and I haven't actually written much code yet, but at least I understand what I did now. I did this, so it was the day after last Thursday's stream, so Friday. I didn't spend long on it because I had some other work to do, but it was just a case of I wasn't happy with what I'd written the Thursday night or Thursday afternoon. And then, so what did I do? If sliding can slide, that was it. So if the block can slide left, so if we get to this point here, we've got a slope collision, we know that. But if it can't slide, then we've got a block breaking situation, quite probably. So if the block can slide left or right, send it off. Otherwise, the only case here is that the slide code determined that it actually couldn't slide the block. This could be because it's stuck in place between two slopes, or that this block is a point collision which should cause a break. So that was the bit. I mean, it calls break block, but I haven't actually written that yet. That simply returns false. So we could have a go at that. What I wanted to do quickly was so one of the things I did have in the code last week, which I quite liked, in fact I might just go back to it and have a look, was that the collision lines moved or showed you how the collision testing was working between the different blocks as it was moving sideways. But before I do that, let's just keep going and jumping into here. No, which is the no, I thought is it shift control? Yes. So several things I've done this week as well. Normally in my SlickEdit configuration, I have control and left square bracket or right square bracket to mean jump to the matching brace, and it works with curly brackets or parentheses or square brackets as well. So I can put that one where it's highlighted blue. It does the highlight of the blue, but you can't always see it. But for some reason, and I haven't been able to figure this out, on a Mac you cannot define control left arrow and right arrow inside SlickEdit or inside almost any other app. If it's got custom keys, I tried doing it inside OBS, which has some key configuration for shortcuts. You can't. Something in the macOS system grabs onto control, and I think it's to do with the desktop spotlight thing. If I sort of do control down arrow, it does that, and control up arrow does that. Control left and right used to slide my desktop around, which was really annoying. I've actually managed to redefine control left and right to be jump one word left or right, which is exactly how I have it on my on my PC in both Windows and Linux. So that's really handy now. So I won't constantly be sliding the desktop left or right whenever I hit control left arrow or right arrow. But for some reason you cannot redefine control bracket. But you can redefine shift control bracket. So I've managed to do shift control bracket as brace match. So if I hit shift control right arrow, or right bracket, sorry, right square bracket, it jumps between those matching braces, which is quite handy. I just have to retrain my muscle memory. However many years I've been using SlickEdit, it must be almost 20 now. No, it was SlickEdit. When was it? Version 6, I think, was the first version I had, before they even started using yearly numbering. Anyway, I've used control parentheses, or sorry, control bracket forever, and redefining my muscle memory to use shift control is just going to happen very slowly. Anyway, so the final bit, so slope collision, we do the sliding block or potentially breaking block stuff. If it's not a slope collision, it's an axis collision, and we know in an axis collision no sliding occurs, so it sticks the block in place. And what happens here? So that's if there's no collision, so that's if no collision, otherwise, I'll make a note of that, otherwise no collision, so move it down, so axis collision, block in place. Right, save that. What I want to quickly do is just commit that. Commit. I'm going to squash these commits up before I push them to GitHub as well. And now what I should be able to do is jump back to this. Is it revert? Is that what I want to do? Do you want to revert the selected commit? This will undo the changes introduced with the selected commit. I'm not sure. No, I don't do that. What I want to do is, and I know how I do this in Perforce, it would be check out the particular commit. I want to reset. What does that do? Select how the index and working tree should be handled. Make the index identical to the selected commit. Don't change the index. Because what I want to effectively do is roll back to that bit of, well, in fact, I want to go back further than that. I want to roll back to there, have a quick look at what my code was doing, and then come back again to here. So how do I do that in GitHub? If you know, let me know. But I'm going to quickly Google it. Git revert to previous commit. Revert to previous commit. I don't want to break things though, because I want to be able to come back to the previous commit. Come back to my current commit. How do I revert from my current state to a snapshot made at a certain commit? Right. Temporarily switch to a different commit. If you want to temporarily go back to it, fool around, then come back to where you were, all you have to do is check out the desired commit. So git checkout and then the commit ID. Okay, so how do I do that inside SmartGit? If I do that, there is no checkout option. Maybe there's a button? No. Local, undo last checkout, edit last checkout. If I double click on that commit, what does it do? It brings me up the log. Okay, so if I'm looking at the log, checkout. Don't create local branch, just work read only. Okay, be careful when checking out a commit instead of a local branch. Commits on top of a commit can get lost. This may be something that SmartGit is trying to help me to not ruin anything. Let's just hope this works. Don't create local branch, just work read only. So check out. Right. It does say something now, I can't quite read it. You are in detached head state. You can look around, make experimental changes and commit them, and you can discard any commits you make in this state without impacting any branches. Okay, that's good. Everything's disappeared though. I can't see my previous one. Anyway, so slick edit says reload selected. Yeah, those files have changed. Now we're back in my old code. So what was happening was, when the block was moving, you can see the little lines that indicate the collision code doing something, moving, which I quite liked. Let's see, let's get one that slides. There we go. So you can see the collision between there, and then we start hitting points where the code didn't work very well. But yeah, it's not even good. Actually, that worked a bit better. That should slide there. Oh no, it's going completely wrong. This is where I decided I didn't want to carry on too far with this bit of code because it just wasn't working right. Let's just do that, see what it does. Yeah, I quite like that. Now let's hope I can go back. Okay. Or if you want to make commits while you're there, go ahead. To go back to where you were, just check out the branch you were on again. If you've made changes, as always, when switching branches, you'll have to deal with them as appropriate. Okay. So how do I get back to the branch I was on? Okay, so that's it. That's telling me I'm pointing at that particular commit. So if I just do local branches, master 3 greater than origin, check out. Do you want to check out the master branch? Yep. Excellent. Phew. I'm glad the changes I'd made are still there. So now I'm back on this one again, and Slicked will tell me that those 2 files are changed. So now we're back to the new code, which works a lot better. Okay, I'm learning how to use Git slowly as I do this project. Excellent. What I want to do now is just fix that line. So at the moment it just like sits there but doesn't do anything else. So let's see what I can do to fix that. So it's when it's sliding. So at the moment, highlight collision is what does that line. So control dot jump to the function. So it looks at the block, the collision points. So when collide block is called, it fills in a bunch of collision points as part of the, what does it do? As part of the game? Where do they come from? Ah, no, collision points are part of my my test code. That's right. It's literally just a list of is it nodes? It must be nodes. Yeah, so what it does, looks at the collision points member of the block, which is a side effect of collide block. In fact, it's a side effect of collide. Here we go, it's this one here. Collide block with grid data is this thing. I should probably be more consistent with camel case and underscores as well. I tend to mix and match them quite regularly. Never mind. So what's going on here? So collision points, it loops through them, and for each collision point, it sets a color based on whether it's an axis collision or not, and then it draws a line between the centers of the 2 cells that have collided. And that, by doing that, it adds a draw node using draw segment, which is effectively a draw line, positions it, makes it visible, then it adds it to collision points. Okay. There's something actually, I probably don't need to use collision points there. There's a way you can tag nodes in the scene, and then I could do something like remove all nodes with the right tag, save storing them myself in a separate variable, because here it clears them, it goes remove from parent. This is operating on these draw nodes. Anyway, let's see what I might be able to do. Do follow me on Live Coding TV if you want to get notified when I go online, which is going to be it is every Tuesday evening at 8 o'clock UK time and Thursday afternoons 3 p.m. UK time as well. Also, if you follow me, you get some fireworks on the screen where the Tim, my chatbot, displays fireworks in your avatar, plus the hat will cycle a rainbow color, I think. Oh, and while you're here, if anyone's interested, you can change the color of the hat by typing in !hat. Let's get it to do a Cylon wave. There you go, you can just about see it in the window. And you can change the color of that by doing Cylon, oh, it's playing hat, Cylon hex code for red, green, RGB. So let's have a purple. Probably can't tell that it's purple. It looks purple to me, but it's not great contrast on my camera. That's the rear-facing one here. Anyway, you can do some other commands too. We've got pulse, rainbow, hat color as well. Make it a solid color wipe. So there it goes. Well, wipe it to blue, or we can clear it. Will it do that? No, that's gone. Ah, that's. I think that makes it random color. Color. There we go. That's cleared to blank. Right. Sorry, got sidetracked there. As I, one day I should be wearing the hat when I get some sewing skills to sew the LEDs properly into the rim. So I want to let's see, just so what happens now is the collision the collision call only happens once, and once it collides and is in a slide, it doesn't call collision again because it's already sort of predetermined that it's not going to collide. So what can I do to update those collision points when it's sliding? So I suppose the moving block, but the collision points aren't going to be blank, are they? They should still be the same. Let's see, where's highlight collision called? If collision is called there, if I just call it inside the, maybe give me a space there. If I just call it inside here, I wonder what happens. There we go, it does move. Right, excellent. So that's kind of what I want. In fact, I can, if collision, no collision, so move it. I'm just going to do here. Then let's see what I can do about that end bit. Ooh, that's interesting. Something went wrong there. The collision was, the slide was slightly off, wasn't it? I might, if I can do that, if I can get that to happen again, I'll have a look at fixing it. I think I know what it probably is. It's probably not. Oh, there it goes. Interesting, interesting. How did that happen? When this slide occurs, so collide block. What should happen is that the block gets locked to the spot in the grid where it actually is, where it should be. Let's do this. So I'm just about to do a bit of code that I got rid of before that I wasn't happy with, but I will see if it's okay. Test to see the falling block can move straight down. So if the block is sliding, we've got numerous collide block calls. It's only, where does it actually set that? It's here that it sets it. Self.block is sliding. What I'm going to do is actually it comes in here. I'm going to not call it lock. Align the block to the grid at the current position. Now, what was the function I wrote? Get aligned grid position. There it is. think that's what I want to do. That way, when a collision occurs, it's always going to be sliding from the right point. Not sure how I can get it to do it again now. It's kind of just about on the little glitch happened there too. There's probably a slight discrepancy in the sliding and the locking the block after the slide is finished. It's basically, there's another point it does that, isn't it? It's here. It's not taken into account the dy fast dropping scenario, is it? That's an interesting glitch. I have to think about that one a bit. But let's go back to the moving line. So this is the point where it snaps it to place here. If I don't do that, all sorts of weird things happen, doesn't it? Oh, yeah, you see it jumped off. I don't know where it's going now. It's because it's subtly shifting the X and Y's just below or just above the aligned positions. I tell you what it is actually. I probably only want to align it with the X and not the Y. Set position, fix to the exact position. What I want to do is self.block.x equals self.block.isSliding.can move to.x. I wonder if that's probably more appropriate than setting the Y as well, because that's going to shift it back up somewhere where it doesn't necessarily want to go. Similarly down here, yeah, that worked better. Okay. Initial tests look like it's a bit better. I want to get a bigger test sliding thing. I'll do. Okay, looks reasonable. Yeah, it's dropping into place. And not jumping up and down now either. That's good. That'll slide off there. Get stuck. Okay, that looks better. Ooh, that one fell into place in the wrong there. In the wrong place. Yeah. I remember when I first wrote this game, I spent a lot of time getting all these little glitches out of it. The testing guys were very thorough, and girls actually. Testing team, the QA department as we had back then. Anyway, okay, so no one's going to slide. I just wanted to have another look at the there we go. Slide. Ooh, that collided as well. That's interesting. that allowed me to rotate into a position of collision, which I thought was fairly heavily guarded against. That's quite nice, I like that. And that fell there as well, didn't it? Ooh. Maybe there's a... What happens if I do that? Ooh, that's an interesting test. Why is it doing that? Ooh, live tester. Hi, good to see you. I was just talking about testing. In fact, our QA department that I used to have many years ago were very thorough on my original game. Currently, I've got a couple of little glitches in this block. In fact, this is the scenario, isn't it? It's there, and it drops down and gets stuck. Right, I'm going to manufacture this scenario, and oh, hi, Karen Cododian. Good to see you. Hope I pronounced your name correctly. Let's jump up and manufacture this second block so that I can force it to be the purple L shape. So new block, new random block. What I want is tile, which is the L shape. It's 0, 1, and 2. Looking at that one there. This should give me my pointy block to start with, and then, yeah, one of those. So when it slides, it falls in. So I'm going to debug that and see what it's doing. Right. We want to break. There's as good a place as any for now. Right. So I don't want that. I want to go back up into game.js, and what I want to do is it should trigger the actually it should trigger the call to slide block again when it reaches the next slide position. So if I continue, there it is. So it's triggered the call to slide block correctly. What does it think it's going to do? F10, yep. So testing down and to the right, that should definitely not be true. Okay, test to the left. Now that should be true and allowable. What's it done? L2? No, but it's given me a collision. So it must be too... Can move left, can move right, block, get position. It must be because it's not aligned exactly when it calls that. Where I've now stopped, I took the little bit of code out which aligns it with the grid. Where are we? Here. And also up here. But if I did that, then it was giving me subtle glitches. Okay, let's put that back in. And I suspect this one is not going to be useful either. I'm going to have to make it, to fix it exactly. So that did what I expected it to do. So once it's in the correct position at the start of the slide, then it's all fine. But what the problem with that was, though, that it looked like it was glitching at speed. Yeah, it kind of stops, doesn't it? Should be going nice and quickly. Oh, and it jittered at the bottom as well. Now, interestingly, the original game did have a little bounce when the blocks landed. And it was a real pain. And I haven't implemented that yet, so they shouldn't do that bounce. If I speed it up, yeah, it drops into place quite nicely. Oh, I wonder, do I want to prevent it going up? Don't know. I'm thinking that maybe I can do align the X and Y, but only if the Y isn't shifting the block back up again. That might work. I could try that. Slide left and right. Let's leave that where it is there. Send it off. Stick blocked. Is that stick block doing the insert into grid? Yeah. Insert into grid is probably where it also does that alignment thing. Yeah, there it is. So it does it there anyway. A little jitter when it moves up there. Don't like that. It must be that that realignment that occurs. If align pos.y is less than that shouldn't move it upwards. You should only ever move it down and sideways to match the block alignment or the grid alignment. No, it must be a different position that it's doing it then. I'm going to investigate this jitter a little bit more, then I'm probably going to call it a day because it's been an hour and 10 minutes now. But I have, hopefully, I've successfully explained to you and certainly to me anyway, my new code that I wrote at the end of last week, but not on stream. Let's see, I'm trying to think where I need to put the breakpoint in for this bit of code. It's already done it. So let's put it in slide block, that's good, right? Let's just send that off, hitting F8. So it's triggered slide block. It didn't glitch yet. So let's see, let's go out of slide block. Actually, F10, stepping through, it should be going into can slide left. Yep, I can move left. And it comes back here, is sliding. This is where it aligns it. So aligned pos is 350, and the block current position is 350 slightly up. So if align pos.y is less than self.block.y, so that, yeah, that should set, what am I doing, F10. Align pos y, yeah, so it does set the x and y. Let's put a break in just somewhere here for the next update. So if is sliding. Okay, so now we're in move block by, so what have we got? dx, dy. Was it going left? Okay, so that didn't cause it to jitter. And now it's moving off. So why did it jitter before then? That's okay. Was it the move? Is it the fast move? Yeah, the fast. So fast move is definitely causing something funky to happen. Maybe the jitter was just my imagination when it was going slowly. Right. So let's. Oh yeah, look at that. That's not so nice. What I could do. Trouble with fast move is it means holding a key down, which is awkward during debugging. But I can force that block to appear in the right place, so that I can effectively code the fast drop and like stick it on just by a bit of code. New random block. What I want is gridx minus equals block size. So if I do that, ooh, I get that wrong entirely. I know what it is. I want 1 = 1. There we go. So that puts the next block in the right place, and now I could just make the fast drop true, which is here. Oh, doesn't even matter if I do that. I just do. Right. Now let's see if I can grab the debugger quickly enough. Okay, so that's interesting. It's triggered it when it's definitely, so it's testing 1 frame ahead effectively. So it's looking to see if it'll do it next frame. That's interesting. I wonder if that's where the glitches are coming from. I need to think carefully about the updates on a per frame basis. Because what happens here is it will come into can move left, yeah. Then it sets his sliding. Now it aligned the block to the grid at the current position. Okay, so this is probably where it's going to kind of doesn't match the speed properly. Maybe I should cause it to slow down when it's going to slide. I bet if I go and play my old game, I'll find out that's what I did. I suspect the fast dropping and the sliding were all too subtle to be mixed together. I might have to make a note of that. I'll do that in my refactor.txt actually. Slope handling and collision testing response. Rename block or grid functions that operate on single cells. I think I did that. I was pretty careful about changing some of my functions so they only operate on cells. Anyway, let's change this to, oh, there goes that. Welcome Vapamies. I don't know if that's how you pronounce your name or not. Good to see you. Let's leave that like it is for a minute. Ongoing handling collision testing response. Sort out the fast drop in relation to sliding. Should sliding happen quickly if fast drop is enabled? Right. I'll make a note of that. What's the date today? 7th of February. Wow. Right. So this alignment is going to shift the block down. Yep. So it's actually just going to snap it down. Do I have a update next frame? Where's it gone? Where's it gone? There it is. Right. Boom. There it goes. So that's the sort of snapping it to the grid alignment, and then it's just going to jump down quickly, and it's going to do it. Oh, now it's slowed down for some reason. Why has it slowed down? Fast drop should be true though, shouldn't it? True, yep. Ah, unless it's got, because it got a 259. Is it coming in here? No, it's not. So for whatever reason, even though fast drop is true, it's deciding that collide block has got an axis collision. 256, 259. Yes, so that's 256 plus. Ah, because it's landing on the ground, isn't it? That's right. So it's close to the bottom of the grid, which is why axis collision is coming back true on the collision. And so it's slowed down. Okay, so I get that, right? So it's going slowly. And there it's jumped up. What did it jump up there for? So it obviously... I'm going to try that again. So now I know why this one in particular slows down when it hits the bottom. And stick another one in there. So it quickly goes down there. Next frame we're going to collide. So now it slows. I'm going to step through this one. I think it's probably one frame too early. Can move left. Move block by dxdy, so we're still going a small amount of movement. Okay, one more. And again. There we go. This is the point where it's got beyond the point it was going to slide to. And it just sticks it in there. Ooh, that's interesting. Can move to is not an exact grid aligned square. Ah, okay. I get that. Probably because when it was coming down the slide, because it was going fast, the position worked out in the slide block function here is based off of the position of the block. So what I want to do is not block.getPosition, I want pos can move to P2, can move to let's do if can move to. So what I want is grid aligned position, get block aligned grid position. I just want grid I want aligned grid position for block. I just want to do this, don't I? I'm going to copy and paste a bit of code. So it can move to .x. Okay. Right. Thank you, debugger. I'm hoping that's the right thing. Excellent. Right. Now I've got to get rid of my always dropping code. Ooh, see the game. And a bit of faking the block inside random block. Right. Live reload was quicker than me. I'm getting impatient. Okay. Okay, so the block is dropping quick when it doesn't get near the bottom. If I do that, it won't do a collision, so it goes nice and quickly. But at the point where it gets nearer to actually landing on something, it slows down, which I think is okay. Do that. So you can quickly nip something past, but when it gets to the point of landing, it slows down. Can live with that. I mean, I have to play it for a bit, get some feedback on whether or not the fast drop and having it slow down at certain points works okay. We'll see. But now it's looking a bit better. Ding, ding, you can drop things down. So the one last thing to do before I go on to breaking blocks, I think, is to figure out the slotting into position bug that occurs at the moment. So one of the things you want to be able to do when playing the game is to be able to slot a block into place that should fit. So this pink block should fit nicely underneath this green block. And what I want to be able to do is, as it comes down to overlap it, I want to hold the left arrow and have it slot into place just at the point that it can, but it doesn't. And that was something that the old code definitely did do, because I remember specifically working that out in a number of places. And for example, this one should do the same thing as well. If I'm holding it to the right, it should slot in to that space for it there. Obviously only when there's a space appropriate for it, but it doesn't do that yet, and I want it to do that. And I think once that happens, then that's actually the game logic complete minus the block dropping logic complete minus the breaking. And in fact, that was actually one of the game modes that we had to enable on the lower specification devices, was no block breaking. So if you had an old phone when you were playing AquaStax, the original version, like an old Nokia Series 40 phone, which is like a very small 128 by 128 sized screen, the features would be changed to accommodate for the memory and the processor speed and things like that, and the screen update. And one of the features we got rid of was the breaking of the stack and the collapsing and the blocks dropping around. So that was valid for gameplay, not breaking the blocks. Just made some of the levels play a little differently. But what I'm going to do next is, I could implement Tetris now. Got a solid line there, could just make that disappear and have the blocks fall down. That'd be rather cool. Yeah, so next time I'm definitely going to do the sliding into place of the blocks, which should be straightforward. I think I have a feeling it's just a case of making sure that they're aligned with the grid horizontally, so that the collision code is able to determine that a block can actually fit into a small space. At the moment, I expect that the collision code is determining that as the block falls, at the point where it's overlapping the top bit of a gap, it says no, can't move left. And then, although visually on the screen the pixels show that it should be able to slide into place, the code under the covers has moved it a subpixel so that it won't slide in either case. Hi there, Live Tester. Thanks for watching. I'm just about to finish the stream now, but do follow me if you want to get notified by live coding when I stream again, which is every Tuesday evening at 8 o'clock UK time and Thursday afternoon at 3 o'clock UK time. That's right. And I'm just about to commit this code to GitHub now. Actually, I'm going to squash the commits and do that. So I'm quite happy with the way these things are working. Let's just look at SmartGit. What did I do? Yeah, various tweakings and a bit of other stuff. Oh, actually, I put that in here. Sort out the fast drop in relation to sliding. Yeah, I did that. Ongoing slope and collision testing response. I'm pretty happy with that. Fix the blocks sliding sideways into place. Right. Cancel. Okay, let's commit that. Now, what am I going to do? I'm going to squash them all up. Actually, no, that was effectively last week's. Although I wrote the code last week. I only committed the code before today's stream earlier on. So I'm going to squash those into a single commit. Rework the high-level logic for sliding in place. Yep, fix my handy comment. Now, can I remember the name of the guy who commented on my CPU temperature getting that nice and high? I'll remember him if you. It was Eugene Esker. That's right. He made a comment about my CPU temperature going very high, and it turns out that Gulp, the app that I use, which watches the files for when they've changed and runs JS hint on them, was polling the file system to see if anything had changed, like once every 100 milliseconds, so 10 times a second, and it was like hammering the CPU. And also I had like a wildcard in here for all the JavaScript files in my project, including the ones inside the frameworks and the Node modules folder, which is part of Node.js tools that I was using on the command line. So it was searching hundreds and hundreds of files, so there's lots of CPU being used. Anyway, I fixed that by giving it an interval of 2 seconds rather than 100 milliseconds. And now today's work, rework the original. So that was my squashed commit, wasn't it? Yep. And this is squash commits. So what have we got? Fix a couple of glitches written to the fast dropping, make the collision, add comments explaining how the sliding code works. Let's put that above. Not sure why I need full stops, but I'll put them in. Now we can push these to GitHub. They're off, right? Excellent. That's it for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again. Oh, one more click edit glitch. It doesn't like quitting if gulp is running, so I have to do There we go. Ooh, greetings in progress tech. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. I'm just about to finish the stream today. You can go back and watch the video if you like. In a short while, I'm sure it'll appear on Live Coding TV. Got a good hour and a half today. Quite a lot of stuff going on. And there we go. Right. Thanks again. I shall see you on Thursday afternoon. Oh, I won't see you, but I'll be around on Thursday afternoon. Do come back and watch me then. Thanks very much indeed. Jump back to my intro screen, and I'll see you soon. Got to get the button click right.